Okay, another podcast episode. Let's go focus on the NHL as the pre-season is now in full swing. We've had training camp. We've seen a lot of professional tryouts for players, um, invites to training camp to some free agents, and of course all the prospect players getting a lot of game time as well. Of course, Calgary taking a couple of games to China, which brings me on to a video I did earlier today, which was the chances of the NHL having a lockout in 2020. I do think the games we played in China this season and last season, pre-season, have a bearing on the Olympics because the Olympics is in China in 2 years, 2 to 4 years time. I think 4 years time in Beijing, and I do think that the NHLPA will sit down with the NHL and say, right, we've been taking these games to China. Give us the Olympics back. We've proven that we can draw revenues over in China. We've proven that there's a market to play in. We want to play in the Olympics there because I think the goal of this agreement between the NHL and China is to grow the game. The KHL's got a professional team there. There's the Asian Hockey League that plays over there as well. The NHL is now taking games there. So the Chinese market is clearly being looked into by a variety of leagues. Just because the NHL is the biggest professional league in the world doesn't mean it's the only league that is looking at China. If the KHL has put a team in China, they're keen to make money. And the KHL is the second biggest league out there. It's the second highest level of league out there. If they're willing to take a risk in China, then don't be surprised if the NHL is going to have to follow suit before the KHL make all the money. So that's going to be on the bargaining table when it comes to the collective bargaining agreement and any negotiations between the NHLPA and the NHL. But the concerns that I raised in that video are the concerns I'm going to talk about now. The fact we've had 3 lockouts before and lost a whole season in one of them. The fact that we've had a player strike that led to this every 10 years having a lockout or every 10 years having a labour dispute. The worrying thing is in the past, when it comes to the collective bargaining agreement, the NHL, the NHLPA votes to drop it, and therefore we know a year in advance that there's going to be some kind of dispute between the players and the league. Um, what's happened in previous lockouts is that the NHLPA hasn't come across in a shining light in organisation and direction, but then the NHL hasn't come across in a shining light either by basically the pure greed of both parties, the players wanting more and the owners wanting more. I think with Vegas joining last year and Seattle about to join when the collective bargaining agreement is up, so to speak, and during the middle of this alleged, well, hypothetical lockout, should we get to that stage, or during the negotiations, that's a lot of money on the line, and I think the NHL know that if they get this wrong, they could lose new fans, let alone existing ones. Existing fans, some of them never came back to the game. Yet the hockey that has come since the 04-05 lockout has been of better standard over the previous decade. Has led to some rule changes. We've now got the shootout after overtime, which we didn't have before. We've got a salary cap that we didn't have before. Whether the salary cap is effective or the right way to go is another thing. And these are debates that over the next year or so we're going to have a lot of. Will there be a lockout? And I'm saying it's about a 50-50 chance. I think with the amount of money coming into the league now and the Olympics being on the table, I think both sides are arguing from a position of strength rather than one side from a position of strength. No one, I don't think, this time around can afford to not play games. I think it looks bad for TV deals, especially when the NHL was trying to grow its media base in North America. Vegas has helped sell the game in the US more and get more US viewers on TV, watching on TV and on the internet, streaming with the streaming services that are available free or otherwise. I will say that. So the NHL owners aren't stupid. The league isn't stupid. The way they handle the situations is, but the money crunchers, they know that this is a big risk not to come to a collective bargaining agreement or renew or extend or amend positively. The NHLPA in the past has come out in a very bad light when it comes out of these negotiations, so they need to tread carefully. The players are getting paid more than they ever have, so they've got to be very, very careful how this comes across when it comes down to it. It's a double-edged sword. Both sides can't afford to be locked out. That's the crux of it. However, we'll have to see what happens in 12 months' time when both the NHLPA and the NHL can vote to extend or opt out of the collective bargaining agreement. If one or the other side does it, we have a problem. If both do it, we are in serious trouble. And no one wants that hanging over with a new team joining and another team having only recently joined, growing a fan base, because that could put a lot of fans off the sport. And yes, after the 05 lockout, the standard of play was better and people were just glad to have the sport back. But at the same time, over here in Europe, we got to see NHL quality players playing in our leagues for our teams, be it on short-term or long-term contracts. And some just liked it so much over here because there isn't this constant labour dispute between the players in the league that later on some of them came to stay and contribute towards the European game. That is something else the NHL has to be aware of: the growth of the KHL, the growth and strength of European leagues and the quality level, and the fact that they don't have these labour disputes that the NHL does have, which is, again, got to be in the back of their minds that yes, they are the top league out there, but they could lose market share, not only domestically when it's having a battle with the NBA, Major League Baseball, NASCAR, MLS, NFL, but also when it comes to people supporting the sport, they may look elsewhere to support rather than buying the NHL merchandise. They will spend more time following their local sides and local leagues than investing in the NHL. So that makes it harder to sell rights. Now, getting back to the training camp, the game's in China, and as I say, this is a way to grow the game in China before the 2022 Olympics, or 2024 Olympics, sorry. Oh, it is 2022 Olympics, my mistake, because it's 2018. So yeah, this is the NHL trying to get in the Chinese market. Again, as I said, the KHL have been there for a while now, and the Asia Hockey League has also got a Chinese team. So this is the NHL trying to sell the game. But it also, I think it says to me that they are going to put the Olympics back on the table for the players. If they're playing games here, the players are willing to go under with their teams, and with the Olympics being in this country 2 years after the collective bargaining agreement ends, so in 3.5 years' time, they will be playing Olympic hockey in Beijing. This says to me that I think the NHL is willing to compromise on the Olympics. So there's a lot to, I think the ball's now in the players' court because the NHL got themselves in a corner on this one. Also, I think when Seattle do join the league, I think it's as big as the league gets without having to change the structure of the league too much. And that's a lot of money. So that's a lot of money Seattle ownership group are paying. That's a lot of money going into the NHL, pot. And that's going to obviously, again, come out of any lockout or any collective bargaining agreement. Whether they agree one after Seattle joins is another thing. And I said, yeah, we can share money for expansion fees and never expand ever again. The players could sign themselves up for a mistake there. But again, Gary Bettman, who's commissioner, under his tenure as commissioner, there have been 3 lockouts. So this doesn't fill me with confidence that there won't be a 4th, or a player strike, or some kind of shortened season or restructured season. This doesn't fill me with 100% confidence, but we'll see what happens. I mean, Gary Bettman is a divisive figure at the best of times. The expansion policy is now being shown to have worked by looking at the amount of expansion sides that do get playoff hockey, and with Vegas, and the amount of expansion sides that have done well and draw fans and win the Stanley Cup, etc. And the same for relocation sides as well. The WHA was decimated by the NHL, and only one WHA team still exists in the same location. So that again says a lot of where things have gone right or wrong with the NHL. But back to pre-season. A lot of good young prospects playing, and hopefully some of them do play in the regular season this year and get the game time and can contribute. The league, as last year proved, was the youngest the league's ever been. Whether that trend continues or it was just a brief spasm, because we've had a couple of good draft classes with a couple of great young prospects in each year coming through at the same time. So whether it's a generational thing, we just had this splurge for a couple of seasons where we have a younger league. We shall see. But with the obviously the growth in the league, we now have 31 teams. I can see veterans and young players getting scattered around more. I can see the league getting far more balanced than it has been. I can see when Seattle joins. I think the league are deliberately going to make them as good as Vegas if they can. I think Vegas, whilst planned to be more competitive than other expansion teams, even the league was surprised how good it was, and I think that's again feeds into the NHL and the NHLPA discussions over the collective bargaining agreement, the success of Vegas, both for the players and for the league. Um, so it's cyclical. Everything's linked to this NHL. But back on preseason, Max Domi's suspension. This is an interesting one. Players don't get paid for preseason. Any bonuses? They're obviously salary, but they don't get paid any bonuses like goal bonus and clean sheet bonus, things like that. So he doesn't get a fine. The incident itself is not the most serious. There were people comparing it to his father knocking out Ulf Samuelsson, but Ulf Samuelsson did that to a lot of players himself. Um, I, if Ekblad had tried to defend himself, it might have been a bit of a scuffle. Two minor penalties for roughing. The officials saw a cross check and decided not to punish because it's pre-season, and they didn't read the situation well. Max Domi's overreacted. Yes, he is a prickly player. That's what he's good at is being a bit of sandpaper and being physical. Yes, he's gone too far. Yes, he deserves suspension if the league sees fit. But at the same time, he did get ejected from the game anyway. Ekblad passed the concussion protocol, so and was deemed fit to still be playing. So I don't know if it's too strict or not, but they've decided to suspend. Fair enough. He only misses the rest of the pre-season, which is actually probably more harmful to Montreal than people realise because he's a new player to the team and is required to have a big role in the team as well. Because Montreal has offensive problems. I don't think they're going to score enough goals to be good enough, and I don't think their defence is going to be good enough for them to make the playoffs. I think they'll be more competitive than Ottawa will be with the trade of Carlson and the mayhem that's awaiting the Senators this season, which has gone from a tyre fire to a full-blown forest fire now. Eugene Melnick is a very erratic owner. Whether he sells the team to someone else, whether they relocate in the Ottawa area to a more suitable location in the Ottawa area, there are issues with government employees not getting paid properly. Obviously, the flood that we had a couple of years ago during the playoffs, the location of the arena being in completely the wrong location, poor transport links to the rest of the metropolitan Ottawa area. But it isn't a hockey mad area. It's just Ottawa is a civil service city with a lot of government employees because it's the capital of Canada. There are issues surrounding that, but the reason that the league was obviously happy to have Ottawa expand there in the early 90s, they were happy to have them there. They have kept them there. They do have a smaller fan base than, let's say, Montreal or Toronto because they're bigger cities. But I can see it's more Eugene Melnick being the problem. There are other social issues around the Ottawa area which are outside the team's control, but it does raise the question of ticket prices and I guess the location and working with the local transport, the local transit authorities to work out ease of access to the arena. And it's not a bad arena; it's just in the wrong location. But then we got to look at other things further afield. The Seattle expansion, Key Arena is obviously in the process of being refurbed to make it NHL compliant and ready for when they enter. Seattle has its own problems of being a very congested city on top of each other, so it's very hard to build a brand new one, brand new arena. I do think Seattle will be the final franchise to enter the league. I don't see any more teams joining the league. I can see that 32 being enough. And I'll finish on this: the playoff structure. There's been a lot of discussions every season when it comes to playoffs, and every season people complain that the system needs rejigging, change the system. In that case, you might as well have just the top 16 teams in the league, get rid of divisions and conferences, change the way how many times you play your opposition home and away. You might as well completely change the playoff structure to completely random. You just put all the regular season team top of the league at the regular season gets the President's Trophy. Then you take the top 16 teams, you whack them in a hat, you pull them out randomly, so it is just completely random for a 7-game series. And then for the next round, you put them all in the hat again, and it's again completely random, so you can't prepare for your opponent as much, and so on until you get to the semi-finals. Then you know who's going to be in the final. That's pretty much the only way you can say, right, then seed 1 versus seed 8 or whatever it is gets eliminated. But then you have the issue of travel from East Coast to West Coast. So there's that issue. Unless you do it per conference, you make it a random draw per conference. So you get the Western and Eastern Conference, and in the Eastern Conference you put them in a hat, Western Conference you put them in a hat, and you jumble up the conferences. So there's no seeding, and again it's the same up to the conference final and then the Stanley Cup final. That's the only way I can see it adequately being changed. I wouldn't say change it from a 7-game series, but make the draw random per conference then. So in the Eastern Conference, the first seed, let's say, is the Maple Leafs. Let's say a wild card's in there. They may not meet to the conference final. So let's say Florida were to make it this year, and they're a wild card, and Toronto's a first seed, or Toronto and Boston are seeded, for example. It could be Toronto and Boston in the first round again. I don't know how you would do it 1 versus 8, but that was a flawed system. You're not going to have a perfect system. Let's just keep it simple. Whether my idea of having a random draw once you get into the playoff mix in either conference is up for debate whether that would work. And then you have the conference finals as they are now. The 2 best teams in each conference going off in the conference finals to then get to the Stanley Cup final. That may be a solution, but I don't know how else you could really change it without having a lot of criticism from fans and teams and players. This comes up every year. No system is perfect. I'll end on that. No system is perfect, and that could be something else that comes out of any collective bargaining agreement is change the playoff structure. If you're going to expand the league, you might have to change the playoff structure. It's a regular criticism that fans level at the league is they're not necessarily happy, considering that Florida missed out even though they had more points than Colorado, who got in, but they're in the wrong conference. So yeah. It's something that won't go away. The playoff structure, it's a big thing. It happens every other season. There's a team that misses out in one conference who would have got in if they were in the other conference on points, and it's a debating point that is there, and it's not going to go away. And it is what it is. I mean, there is no perfect system. Finally, I will finish on this. The third jerseys are being released. Some look pretty sharp, some look absolutely hideous. As a Jets fan, I'm not 100% sold on the wording, but the colouring's good. Calgary have brought back the white C, which is what they should always have as their colour jersey. There are some pretty good thirds, and some of them are just, heritage classics, or based on old designs. There's no new design there. Sometimes it would be nice to see a brand new design. Arizona have gone back with the Kachina, which is nice because I want that. But yeah, the third jerseys are out, and the debate is: will every will teams like Vegas have a third jersey? Will every team have the third jersey? They are pretty cool. I will admit, third jerseys are sometimes better than home and away jerseys, but we'll leave that debating point. The third jerseys is a really interesting debating point. There are websites that have the jerseys up. They're on Twitter a lot. Social media's gone mad if you're a hockey fan. But I'm going to leave that there. Thank you very much for listening to this lengthy podcast. There's been a few rambles. Apologies, there's a lot to cover on the NHL. But I'm enjoying it. Pre-season's back. I've caught a few games. Admittedly, a day late, but it's a day late, dollar short, isn't it? But I'm impressed with some of the quality of some of the young players. And of course, John Tavares has now scored a goal for the Maple Leafs. So let's see how he settles in with his new side. Let's see how Carlson settles in with the Sharks. Let's see if he gets any game time this pre-season, or they just get him training and getting himself slowly prepared for the season. Considering how last season went with his injury and recovery from an operation, and I feel that the Senators rushed him back, and it wasn't a happy place to be, and it was a perfect storm going the wrong way, as he did say his own words. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please leave your thoughts on the NHL below if you are an NHL fan. If you like the podcast, I can keep doing them once a week. I think would be pretty good. A weekly podcast, I think, will probably be best, and hopefully one day we can have a guest on the podcast and we can discuss things with me and my guest at some point. That is the plan. So we'll have to see where that leads down the line. Maybe get a subscriber on the podcast. That'd be pretty cool if we could do that. But that will have to wait for another time and another day. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Place your thoughts below, and I'll have some more videos for you soon.